I'm David Lombardo, and this is WCNY's The Capitol Press Room, and we're joined in the studio by State Senate Racing, Gaming, and Wagering Committee Chair Joe Addabbo, a Queens Democrat. Thanks for making the time, Senator.
Always a pleasure, David.
So I want to start with legislation introduced this week that impacts your backyard in Queens, where Resorts World Casino, which has historically only had video gaming, recently got a license to offer live table games and is now a full-fledged casino. A bill was introduced that gives them some relief for 1 year on what they pay in state taxes and to support thoroughbred racing operated by the New York Racing Association. The backdrop here is that they've argued their racing payments should be subtracted from their state taxes, which for the gaming business are at the sky-high rate of 56%. So why do you think providing them temporary relief is the right move, at least at this point?
Well, David, they were a casino at a certain tax rate. They are no longer a casino at a certain tax rate. So the situation has certainly changed. So they are now a full-fledged licensed casino at a 56% tax rate. And I think it was a matter of misinterpretation or misunderstanding. And I'm glad that in the end, the governor's office with the Gaming Commission and NYRA and Resorts World got together and they figured it out and we're helping out legislatively. I think it was an interpretation of what that 56% represented. Everybody in the world knows Resorts World owes payments to NYRA. Everybody knows that. Everybody understands that. I don't think that's an issue. It's a question of where does that money come from? And I think the Gaming Commission and the governor's administration has the wherewithal to take that 56% and distribute it partly to NYRA. And I think that this legislation clarifies that. And I think this legislation gives us a year period to work out any other issue associated with it. But let's be honest, this is not the first of what could be many issues going forward as we have 3 new casinos coming up downstate.
You mentioned the 56% tax rate that Resorts World proposed for itself. That process, though, of applying for the licenses to operate in downstate, that had lots of back and forth between the Gaming Commission, which oversaw the process, or specifically that facility location board. Do you think there's an excuse from Resorts World for not having gotten clarity in the months and months, if not years, that this process dragged on for?
I think there was an understanding. And I'm hoping the understanding, and I believe there was something in writing, not just a handshake or verbal.
I bet they hope they have something in writing.
Too, right? And the idea here is 56% was a closed bid, so you didn't know what the others were doing, and you bid based on what you believe is right and what you can do, being Resorts World. And like I said, I think there was an understanding, and I believe it was in writing that 56% did include the NYRA payments. But this is something that, like I said, it's going to be hashed out now, but over the next year. And I think it gets resolved because it is critical for the horse racing industry, obviously, to get these payments, an industry that creates 19,000 jobs and billions in revenue.
And I think the 56% proposal was a bit of a head scratcher because sports gambling operators that work in the online space pay less than that for much less infrastructure involved. So the idea that someone felt like they could make money, or at least a significant amount of money, at a 56% tax rate does seem to stretch what makes sense, right?
And according to reports, they are making money. According to reports, they are like the number 1 gaming site in the country. Even at 56%, they're doing great, money-wise or revenue-wise for the state. But again, it's not a short game. It's a long game. And it's how is that revenue sustainable going over time? They're paying 56% 5 years from now. Who knows?
Well, I imagine they're going to be asking to have it lowered in the near future.
Let's place a bet on that. I agree.
Yeah.
But the idea is, I think even at 56% for at least the 3 years that they're the only game in town, they will be successful. They have a successful product. They've proven that over the last 13 years. And the state, in my opinion, should invest in a business that generates thousands upon thousands of not jobs but careers, and generates that much money, $4 billion or so for education. So the idea is you reinvest in a successful product like that. And with Aqueduct being dismantled over the next number of months as Belmont opens in the fall, what happens to that land? So whether it's a segment of housing plus retail, park space, expansion of Resorts World, that's a great topic for our local residents back down in Ozone Park.
So moving forward, because Resorts World is going to, 1, look to have its tax rate lowered, and 2, probably have some sort of concerns about its broader racing payments and whether that's taken out of their tax rates or whether that's in addition to their tax rates. What's going to be the pitch that you make to your colleagues about why there should be movement on any of this? Because a lot of them are going to be skeptical. They're going to say, these are the terms you agreed to. I'm sick and tired of gambling operators coming back and saying, I need new terms, and make it work or don't. I mean, so what is going to be your sales pitch to these people?
I think it's premature to go there because we're talking about something that, but precedent has been set. Operators have come to us on every level. VLT operators, OTBs are coming to us. We did the vendor fee for them this year in the budget to help out. People have come to us about a tax rate reduction. So precedent has been set that when somebody makes a valid pitch and a valid concern that they need lower tax rate to save jobs or increase jobs, precedent has been set that we have done that. So while this conversation may be premature for results world at 56%, understand that we could have this conversation maybe 4 or 5 years from now, but precedent has been set that we already, as a state, have lowered tax rates.
A casino license was also awarded to Bally's in the Bronx, but we're hearing that they're not exactly rushing to completion because they might have limited access to capital after ponying up hundreds of millions for a license. Are you hearing anything about their ability to open in a timely fashion?
Hearing something, no, always concerned, because never will I believe that, oh, we've done our job, we issued the 3 licenses, we're done, our job is done. We're never done, because now that we issued the 3 licenses, it's to monitor the process to make sure things move along, because again, thousands of jobs are at stake here, and not only jobs but careers, let alone the revenue. So the idea is we want projects to move along. Hard Rock, Bally's, we want them to move along. And somebody had to pay, both of them, both those entities paid a lot of money, billions, right, to get that license. I wouldn't think that they paid all that money not to do the project or to have it lag behind. So I'm hopeful that they go forward in a manner that's, we see realization of jobs, even construction jobs, in a timely manner.
The state helped the New York Racing Association access financing for the Belmont Park overhaul. Could you imagine New York doing something similar for the operators of Bally's in order to help move that project along?
David, if I couldn't imagine it, I'm in the wrong spot. We're up here. Anything is possible up here in Albany. So we address the issue as it comes, as we are confronted with it. Like the Resorts World issue confronted us with that issue about the NYRA payments. It was like 5 or 6 days left in legislative session. There was a budget that was pretty much all done, and yet we were hit with that, and we responded. So we will face anything that faces us in the gaming industry.
But it doesn't sound like it's something that you would automatically write off as a non-starter then.
No, nothing is a non-starter. And we would be so underproductive as a state legislature if anything was a non-starter. I think it's important that we have these conversations, we entertain the idea, either it falls off the table or we start to work with it.
And what about the broader issue of payments from gambling operators to the racetrack operators, including NYRA, whose deal to receive subsidies is set to run out in a few years, and some lawmakers have already been looking to stop the flow of money prematurely? I mean, what does the future look like?
The story of NYRA is going to change because, like I said, Aqueduct is now going to cease to exist, and now you're going to have 2 really jewels of the racing industry. You're going to have Belmont, you're going to have Saratoga. It's going to be a different NYRA, a more efficient, streamlined NYRA. So I think this is an industry that has taken care and will continue to take care of equine care and address it, looking at the efficiency of the sport itself. And I think this is something that we can sell going forward legislatively.
And do you envision, though, the support taking different shape, whether maybe they won't get the money for handle, or maybe they won't get money for capital, or whatever the third bucket is that I can't remember at this point?
Time will tell, Dave, only because with the new Belmont, I think it's going to be very successful. With the Saratoga is always successful with the advent of the increased interest in social media and the increased social media, not only social media, but betting online. I think that's going to just increase business for NYRA and for horse racing. So, again, it's something that we have to monitor going forward.
And we should be clear, though, there are other forms of horse racing that get these types of racing support payment, even other thoroughbred racing in New York that gets this. We've been talking, though, primarily in the context of NYRA, which I think is special or unique because of the quality of the racing, especially at Saratoga. So should we think about that same dynamic for those other tracks and other forms of racing?
Like standardbred.
Sure.
And look, right in the budget, we did again, one of the parts in the budget to help out standardbred and drug testing for the horses there. So we are recognizing that standardbred is important. And what's most important, the equine care. So now for standardbred, particularly drug testing, I think we do that all the time. And so certainly it's something that we're going to have to take a look at because there's a segment of revenue and there's a segment of jobs that are attached to harness racing and standardbred.
Online sports wagering could be seen as cannibalizing some of the thoroughbred or harness racing gambling. And to that end, the thoroughbred racing, like at NYRA, is interested in getting on those online wagering platforms, potentially being available in like fixed odds, something they're not allowed to do now. What do you think could be moving in that area? Is there ever going to be appetite to say, hey, it's not just pari-mutuel wagering on horse racing, it's going to be the traditional type of gambling that you might expect for other sports?
Yeah, I think horse racing in terms of betting has to evolve. Whether it be with fixed odds, whether it be with online gaming, it has to evolve. You can't be static or stagnant. That's when the industry will start to take a further downturn. So the idea is I think we have to look at everything here going forward. And that's what I'll do in the off season. I'll speak to those who have the license, the casino license. I'll speak to NYRA. I'll speak to the harness. What can we do to help? And that's what you do during the off season. So you get a running start for the 2027 session by doing the off session work. And so what can we do to help? And where do we see this going for the next year, the next 5 years? So that's my homework for the off season.
Right now, we have licensed, regulated online sports wagering in New York, and we also have what I'll call de facto unlicensed sports wagering in the form of prediction markets. And some of the licensed operators are looking to get into that space. And I have to imagine it's appealing on multiple levels, primarily, though, because they're not facing the same tax rates that they are seeing at the state level. So do you need to take steps to prevent them from trying to migrate some of their customers over to those prediction markets?
I've been saying it for a while, David. We need to take steps to address the prediction market issue. Because, right, somebody's paying 51% mobile sports betting to the state, and here's a prediction market coming in paying nothing to the state, unregulated, and yet taking sports bets as well as other bets. That's a problem because we have such a successful mobile sports betting product. Some will say the number one product in the country. And we know the numbers, right? Billions for education, revenue, and so forth. So it's a very successful product. Why would you do anything to jeopardize the sustainability and success of that product? You have to address prediction markets. And I've said it in the past, to ban something, yeah, okay, you could do that. It's kind of easy. Legal, you can bring a lawsuit. The harder thing to do and the better situation to be in is to regulate. Let's be the state that leads every other state. Let's regulate prediction markets. This way, it's a win for that entity coming into New York to do business legally with New York, no lawsuit. New York gains it because we get the revenue, we get to, again, a structure, a legal structure, and we get to help a New Yorker who's already doing these bets illegally, but yet we can protect a minor who may be sought after by these prediction markets, or we may get to help someone who's on the way to an addiction. So once you regulate it, you can further help. That's the position I want to be in. So the more we sit back and we let prediction markets infiltrate our state, and I appreciate the efforts of the Attorney General getting involved and the Gaming Commission getting involved and the governor getting involved, and we have a piece of legislation dealing with it. Bottom line is, not enough. Not enough. This is a growing market. Prediction markets across the country are expanding, a very robust business. We need to regulate it here in New York.
Where do we get that authority to regulate from? Because the pitch they'll make is, no, we are regulated solely at the federal level.
And in speaking to them, they wouldn't mind doing a legal business in our state. They don't like these lawsuits. They don't like to be attacked by the attorney generals of the state and everything else. There's like 16 states who brought legislation against, these prediction market entities. We get it because every state that has online gaming, mobile sports betting, any type of gaming, it's governor driven. It's governor driven. The governor of that state either wanted to do this or felt they needed to do this because they need the revenue, or the other states surrounding them are taking their money, whatever it may be. So for us to do online betting or regulating prediction markets, it has to be governor driven. It can't be a single senator, no matter what committee they chair, or a single assembly. It has to be a collective effort. It has to be a collective effort. So that's what I'm hoping in years coming, whether it be because we're facing a double-digit deficit in next year's budget, or whether because of cuts on the federal level, whatever it is, that we look to really do the right thing by New Yorkers and regulate prediction markets and online gaming in New York.
So I described the prediction markets as de facto sports wagering. They would disagree with me probably, but I also would have described 10 years ago online daily fantasy sports as de facto sports wagering, and the courts did not agree with me on that one. So are you concerned at all about this precedent that has been set here in New York where policymakers have gone out of their way to a certain degree to say daily fantasy sports, no, that's might look like sports wagering, it might quack like sports wagering, it's not sports wagering. And now to look at the prediction markets and say, yes, this is de facto sports wagering. I mean, do you feel like you're in a tough position based on that past record?
I think you had to boil it down to what is skill and what is a game of chance.
Mm-hmm.
I truly believe fantasy sports is a game of skill. I don't think anybody can pick up a sheet and figure out how to build a team. I think it is a game of skill to look at the stats and everything else. But yet somebody could play a game of chance and throw a couple of bucks on red or black or for a certain number and win money. So game of skill and games of chance. When we go into the weeds with that, when we really look into it, then we can decipher what we need to do in each lane. Game of chance, game of skill.
Thinking about any older form of gambling that has tried to evolve and tried to keep up, the off-track betting organizations, they exist in various forms now or don't exist at all. Do you think they have a future role to play, or should they be swallowed up by some of these other operators? Should, for example, in the Capital Region, the New York Racing Association operate through the off-track betting organization?
I think OTBs are an adapt or die situation. This is not the corner OTB anymore as much. Since you have a phone and since you have a laptop, you could do bets that way.
Sure.
So I think the days of going to an OTB shop are pretty much done, right? So the ones that have been successful, the OTBs that have been successful are the ones that have adapted. They own a VLT site, they own a gaming facility, or they own something else, or they do something else that's going to be adaptive to the current market. And I think those are the ones that survive. And they have to constantly figure it out, a way to get customers in, to own a different entity, to do something a little differently. And those are what I appreciate. We're there to help. We, again, consider anything that's brought to us. Like this year, again, we try to do the vendor fee adjustments for them. Catskill and Capital both get access to the CAF, or capital acquisition funds, to try to help them along, actually helping Catskill wind things down.
Yeah.
But the idea is you adapt or die if you're an OTB at this point.
Anything else you're thinking about in the gambling side of things? That, I mean, you always want to talk about online gaming, I know.
Oh, me?
But yeah.
No.
But is there anything else that's on your radar for 2027?
Again, I think the expansion of technology and expansion of AI, it creeps into the gaming industry, and I'm very concerned. So, again, that New Yorker who's doing something already, possibly illegally, or a minor, we have the technology that we can protect them. And for all my colleagues who are very apprehensive about expanding gaming in New York, I get it, the pitfalls. But we can only truly be in the best position to help a New Yorker once we regulate something. Once we provide the guardrails, the protocols, the safety measures, and the caps on accounts and monitoring their activity, only then can we really help a New Yorker or a minor. So that's my mission, whether it be with online gaming, prediction markets, horse racing, it doesn't matter. Any aspect of gaming, I want to regulate it. And I want to protect New Yorkers.
Any chance we're ever going to get some fun prop bets approved in New York so we can start betting on some of those ambiguous things?
As I am an optimistic person and hope springs eternal, I got only 24 hours left, Dave. I can't, what am I going to do this session?
Well, early in 2027, if you allow us to start betting on, I don't know, how long the national anthem is going to go at the Super Bowl, that's always a fun one.
January.
Well, we've been speaking with State Senate Racing, Gaming, and Wagering Committee Chair Joe Addabbo. He is a Queens Democrat and the ultimate optimist here at the Capitol. Senator, thank you so much for making the time.
David, always a pleasure. Thanks so much.
Support for the Capitol Press Room comes from O'Donnell & Associates, a public affairs firm providing strategic guidance to businesses and nonprofits on navigating policy and regulatory issues. More information is available at o'donnellsolutions.com.